Hi, I like video games. One might even call me a gamer. I grew up on Prime Minecraft in the early 2010s, and while the games I played as a kid were fairly limited, I've branched out over the years, and now I'll try pretty much anything regardless of genre. Now lately, I've become something of a completionist. I have found a ton of enjoyment from seeking out achievements and pushing myself to get every one of them in most of the games I play. And this brings me to my next point. Steam is great, as most people will tell you, and for a multitude of reasons. Mostly the profile customization, if I'm being honest. But Steam has this funny little thing called the Perfect Games tab, where all of the games you 100% are listed here, and they even have these cute little ribbons. My brain really likes that. It gives me one place to collect all my funny little numbers and ribbons so that anyone who looks at my profile can see all the games I've 100% are right there in one place. Another thing I like about Steam, and I think I can say this one for everybody, is the sales. Steam sales are actually just like the greatest thing to ever exist. You're telling me I can get Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD Remaster featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series for 15 bucks? And that's not even that noteworthy. Like, I've gotten much more for much less in the past. It's actually crazy. The bottom line is, if you like money, then you like Steam sales. I like money. I like Steam sales. Unfortunately, when you can get 10, 15 games for like less than 50 bucks multiple times every few months, you end up with a little bit of a backlog. God, why do I keep buying JRPGs I don't have time for? Now you're probably wondering why I'm telling you all this in the first place. The thing is, I have all these games to play, and already planned 100% a lot of them. So I figured, why not do something interesting with it and turn them into videos? I had the idea to chronicle my experience 100%ing a game and then turn it into like a diary/review where I go through my process and talk about the game a bit. I'm not a professional YouTuber by any means, and this is my first time making anything like this, but I think it'll be fun, and I'd love to do more games in the future. Anyways, with all that out of the way, it's time to talk about... So, quick disclaimer. I have technically played the game before, but it was so long ago, not for very long, and I didn't get any achievements, so I am basically going in blind. Now, when I 100% a game, I like to first look through the achievements a bit and sort of get a feel for what I'm getting into. When previewing achievements, there's two main things I'm looking out for. Minimum number of playthroughs, and any missables. For Metro 2033, I'm going to need 2 playthroughs. One on Spartan mode, and the other on survival mode. Essentially, survival is more like a survival horror game, while Spartan is more of a traditional first-person shooter. As for missables, there's a handful of achievements that conveniently list level names in their descriptions. These are going to be Demolitionist, DJ Artyom, Raider, Quick Draw, Invisible Man, Merciful, and Hedgehopper. All I have to do is keep an eye on the level names as I start each one. Pretty straightforward. I'm sure I won't miss anything. With that taken care of, I can actually start the game now. For my first playthrough, I went with survival since it was, from what I understand, the original experience. For this first run, I wanted to focus more on the game itself and immerse myself in the story and atmosphere as it was originally intended. After all, I have a whole second playthrough to worry about things like collectibles. Little side note, these games are based on a book series, if you didn't know, and you can find the books scattered around all throughout the game, including on this main menu, which I thought was both funny and a really cool nod. Now, the game doesn't really provide any exposition for you. There are these little introspectives from the protagonist at the start of every level, but that's about it. These feel like they were taken from the book, and it would be really cool if that were the case, but I couldn't find an answer online. So if anyone's read them and knows, feel free to let me know in the comments. Now, the story actually begins with a prologue in the future, towards the end of the game, before jumping back in time to recap the events that led you there. This story is more about the journey than the destination, and a hell of a journey it is. Quick exposition. In case you couldn't tell from the gas masks and ruined buildings, this is an apocalypse story. Basically, standard apocalypse stuff happened, world go boom, and the surface is effectively uninhabitable. Everybody fled underground, forming a new culture in the existing subterranean infrastructure. In other words, the Metro of 2033. Instead of towns and cities, you have different stations, and they each have their own politics and customs. I absolutely love this setting. The idea of people living in the metro tunnels is just so perfect to me, and it has so much potential as a setting, which the game does a great job of utilizing. While it doesn't take place entirely within the metro, the vast majority of it does, and it does a great job at fleshing out such a limited environment. There's a good balance of world building with different characters and stations and whatnot, while also feeling very limited, providing this claustrophobic sense that There might be a good bit going on down there, but it's also all there is left. The atmosphere to me has this nice balance of both hope and despair, which works really well for an apocalypse setting. The basic outline of the story can be summarized into 2 acts. The first and longer one is spent trying to get to this one location to deliver a message given to you by this guy. Good lord, stop mewing.
Trust everything to you, Artyom. Don't let me down.
You come across all sorts of characters and locations, and there's a ton of world building baked into most of your interactions with the other survivors. The second act gives you a more defined goal, where you have a plan to carry out. So, you're telling me we're going to a library to use a WMD to wipe out a hostile species threatening humanity. I'll try to keep the details to a minimum for this second act to avoid spoilers in case anyone who hasn't played the game yet is planning to. But just know that compared to the first act, there's more emphasis on events rather than lore, and you get a more consistent cast of characters. I should probably mention the Dark Ones. Basically, the surface isn't actually fully uninhabitable. There's these humanoid monsters that roam around the wasteland, and the survivors call them the Dark Ones. I believe the implication is that they're an evolved relative of humanity that adapted to survive the harsh conditions on the surface. Bottom line, you see them a lot throughout the game, so just know they exist. Speaking of the surface, so far I've mostly praised how the game handles its underground environments, but the surface is just as amazing. When you emerge out into the daylight for the first time, I had to stop and just take it all in for a moment. I'm typically not huge on colder environments in games, but something about this is so hauntingly beautiful. It feels so desolate, but also far from empty. Between the ruined office buildings and the deserted playgrounds, this is a world that was once lived in, and it reminds me a lot of Chernobyl, which I thought was like the coolest thing ever in middle school, so I might be a little biased. I think the snow kinda adds to that, and the cooler color scheme is a welcome change of pace from the desert wastelands and overgrown cities you see in most other apocalypse settings. This is a pretty small detail, but I just have to mention it. The objectives in this game don't have a UI or anything. Instead, they're incorporated into this little notepad you carry around that you can pull out and look at any time. It also comes with a little compass that took me way too long to realize points you in the direction of your next objective. For whatever reason, I had assumed it actually pointed north and you'd have to actually navigate. I have no idea how I came to that conclusion, especially since a lot of the game takes place underground with little to no sense of direction. I've been singing the game's praises so far, but I do have a few complaints I'd like to address as well. First of all, the player character, Artyom, is a silent protagonist. Those little quotes at the start of each level, those are the only times you ever hear him speak. Now, I take no issue with silent protagonists fundamentally. In the right context, they can be great. This is not that context, though. There aren't any branching dialogue options, the level intros prove that he does have a voice actor, and there's more than a few scenes that would make a lot more sense if he just spoke.
You'll take me? I don't know you, but if I don't, I guess I'll get eaten by the monsters. You have a gun? Okay, maybe I'll come with you then. You can shoot the monsters, right?
I just don't really see the point of keeping him silent. It feels off to me. Another thing I didn't love was the ending. It wasn't bad per se, but it definitely felt kind of underwhelming. There is, of course, an alternate ending I still have to get in my second playthrough, and I'm sure that one will be more interesting, but for the default canon one, it was just kinda, I don't know, basic. By the time it was over, all I could think was, that's it? There's also some gameplay sections towards the end where it gets kind of unclear what you're supposed to do, although this is more of a nitpick, since I might just be stupid. Oh. Oh. I don't know how to do this part. I said earlier that this game to me is more about the journey than the destination, so I can live with a lackluster ending considering how incredible the journey leading up to it was. Now let's rewind a bit and talk about that journey. Specifically, the achievements, considering that's what most of you are probably here for. I got my first achievement pretty early on, during the section that introduces the gas mask mechanic. You can press G to wipe the mask, so I just did that 20 times once I figured out how, and that gave me who goes there. Not too long after this, I decided to explore the menus a bit and check out the chapter select. Might as well get used to it now, so... what's this? Yeah, so I already missed one, Going back to the game's first non-prologue mission, Hunter, there's a section where you get attacked from the vents. You're supposed to shoot the mutants before they break through the vents to get the achievement. I, however, was doing, not that. Where do I get a weapon from? There's no weapons anywhere! It's all good, guys. My melee works well enough.
Are you alright?
No, give me a damn gun.
Boss. And I'll take more than a few of your
Oh my god, there was a pistol here the whole time. Yeah, we'll have to come back for that one. My next achievement was to spend 60 seconds standing in radiation. You can hear a Geiger counter that tells you when you're in a radioactive spot. Just stand there for 60 seconds and it'll pop. I did that here. Shortly after, I got Demolitionist, which is one of the few story-related achievements in this game. Basically, bongo boom. Next, there's this level called Frontline, and there are 2 achievements tied to it based on which version of the level you do. You can either go loud or stay stealthy, and there's an achievement for each. I opted for stealth since I was on survival mode, except it didn't even matter because on this first run I actually got neither of them. So when the wording of the achievement says without killing anybody, that means nobody can die, period. Which I did not realize included these 2 random prisoners that are executed if you don't knock out the guard watching them. We'll be back later. I got Raider for killing this guy, and I got Fire in the Hole during this segment with this obnoxious child that just will not stop talking.
There! Hey, there's one crawling from the back! That one! Hey, look out! There's one more! There! There's one more! Leon!
I got both Warrior and Tank during this combat segment of Outpost, where my gas mask was almost broken, so I had to spam microdose it like FNAF cams. Unfortunately, I did miss DJ Artyom, so I'll have to come back for that one as well. I found this tripwire right at the start of Black Station, so I decided to reload my save and keep disarming it for soft touch. On this same level, I also got Merciful, another stealth-related one. Then I got Drunk at Polis for Toast. It was at this point where I began to run into some issues. I don't know what it is about the level Alley, but it completely broke my game and started causing all kinds of issues with crashing, when the game had been perfectly fine up until that point. I ended up verifying my files later, and everything went back to normal, but I'm really hoping this level doesn't give me any more problems on my second playthrough, because this was kind of obnoxious. During this level, I got Watchman Hunter and Inquisitor. I also got these early on in the next level. This flamethrower segment gave me these, and killing the spider gave me this. I got Patho and Atomus by killing a few of these things. At the end of the story, I got 2 more achievements. One for finishing in survival mode, and one for getting the normal ending. After this, I reloaded the flamethrower segment to get Pyro, and went back to Frontline to get both the stealth achievement as well as Rescue Ranger, which you actually get from saving those prisoners I mentioned earlier. And that's it for my first playthrough. Since I knew I needed the second playthrough anyways, I let myself be pretty inefficient with this one, missing quite a few things I probably could have gotten easily if I was actually paying attention. I'm left with 23 of the 49 achievements, which puts me at 46%. I'm roughly halfway there, but I'm pretty sure I still have some headaches ahead of me, like the kills with every weapon. I'm not really looking forward to that. I'm praying it won't be nearly as annoying as it sounds. But for now, it's time to start my second run. Spartan mode. To be honest, most of it didn't feel that different from survival mode. I had moments where I was low on ammo, and I still ended up stealthing a lot of sections for the alternate ending, which I'll explain in a minute. I even had to forego Hedgehopper for now, and come back to it later for fear of screwing up the ending. That isn't to say it was entirely the same, though. Between a combination of more loot availability and me exploring absolutely everything, I had plenty of money throughout the run, and was never really hurting for any resources besides pistol ammo for some reason. Especially towards the end, the game just refused to give me pistol ammo. I don't know why. There are 2 main things I wanted to focus on in this second playthrough. First is the collectibles. Calling back to those chapter intros again, I believe those are supposed to be from Artyom's diary. The collectibles take the form of additional diary pages, introducing new lore and better characterizing Artyom during each event of the story to make up for his lack of speaking. These weren't too annoying to get, and I do appreciate the extra character perspective, so as far as collectibles go, these are pretty alright. The other main focus of this run was the alternate ending. The game has this hidden morality system, where certain actions can increase or decrease your invisible morality level. You can gain these by exploring the world, listening to characters speak, or just being a good person in general. One of the more straightforward ways to gain this is to avoid killing in the levels that don't require it, which is why I wasn't able to get Hedgehopper this time, considering that it requires, you know, large amounts of killing. At the end of the game, if you have enough of these invisible moral points, you have a key choice to make that determines which ending you get. I said before, I hope the alternate ending was more interesting than the regular, and to be honest, it's about the same. It does have some interesting lore implications for the regular ending, however, and I'm curious to see how the later games will handle that. Also, shout out to the Steam guide for both collectibles and moral points. I use Steam guides all the time for my 100%s, they're such a useful feature. Like I said before, Steam is just the greatest. One more thing I want to mention before the achievements is actually a very strange performance issue I encountered. Remember how in my first playthrough, the level Alley towards the end of the game completely broke something and I had to verify my files to fix it? Yeah, so for some reason this happened roughly every 25 to 30 minutes on this playthrough. I basically had to watch my OBS recording timer, and every time it accumulated another 20 minutes or so, I had to find a stopping point, quit out, verify my files, and resume. This was mildly inconvenient. Okay, achievements. First things first, quick draw. Believe it or not, this was significantly easier when I actually had a gun. Next was generous, which is one I'm kind of surprised I didn't get my first playthrough. There's a few points where you can donate money to those in need, you just need to do that at every point. This also helps with moral points, so it was something I needed to do this run anyways. On Dead City, I got Ranger, which is tied to exploration. You have to find a bunch of stashes. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure what that means since I just explored everything regardless, but I think it's tied to these secret rooms you can find since it popped upon entering this one. On to Frontline, I knocked out a few guys to get stunning, then finished the level in stealth for the moral points. I got Scrooge by saving an ungodly amount of money, which was really easy on Spartan mode. On Outpost, I grabbed DJ Artyom by broadcasting this signal, then picked up Sniper with some headshots. Right after, I decided to grab some stealth kills, which gave me Snake. When I got to Polis, having all this money saved up from Scrooge, I grabbed both Wheeler Dealer and Metro Trader. Both of them require you to make a bunch of purchases, one for weapons and the other for ammo. Alley gave me Thief, which requires you to open 15 of these safes you can find all throughout the game. There's typically a key nearby that you need to unlock them. I finished my shotgun kills shortly after. Now for the flamethrower section, I reloaded so many times to grind so many kills. First I did the Hell Breath, which is kind of like a railgun, then flame grenades, explosions, and I finished it off with throwing knives. Let me just say, this was absolutely not the place to get throwing knife kills. Next I got Spider Hunter for killing spiders, and I want to know who decided to call these things spiders. Those are not spiders, those are literally scorpions. To wrap up my second playthrough, I got Blogger for grabbing all the diary notes I mentioned earlier. Then, of course, I got Spartan 2033 and Enlightened upon finishing the game with the alternate ending. This second playthrough was pretty fun. I liked the added context a lot of the earlier stuff has, knowing the full story already. There were never any big wow twist moments or anything, but your understanding of the world definitely does change in a twisty kind of way. It's just handled very gradually, so you don't really notice it while it's happening, and I thought that was a very interesting detail. Now I finished this run at 43 achievements, or 87%, which means I only have 6 left. We're in the final stretch now. At this point, all I had left was a bunch of kills in the alternate frontline path. To start, we'll get kills with all weapons out of the way. I had been keeping a vague idea of what weapons I had used throughout my second playthrough, and I had narrowed down the weapons I potentially still needed to use to just 3. The SMG, the AK, and the VSV. I was the most confident that I hadn't used the AK this run, and I knew where to get one very easily, so I started with Chapter Select and loaded up dry. I picked up the AK at the start, got a kill, and luckily it turned out to be the only one I had left, giving me Weaponsmith. While I was already here, I went ahead and grabbed the revolver and close combat kills as well. Everything else I could get from Frontline, so I loaded up the preceding chapter to buy the gear I needed and headed into the Frontline. Get it? I got Airbender for hitting 50 kills on human enemies with pneumatic weapons. I reloaded my checkpoint to headshot this guy until I got Marksman, and for the final achievement of the game, I killed them all. Overall, this game was an amazing experience. I will say the 100% was a little on the uninteresting side, considering most of it was just kill farming, but the game itself made up for it with its unforgettable journey. I've had a ton of fun playing it, and also making this video. I already have more games lined up for the coming months, and I can't wait to get to them. I think I'll probably even cover the other Metro games in this format. I was skimming the Steam page for Exodus, and that game looks absolutely stunning. I cannot wait to play it. Performance issues aside, I would absolutely recommend this game for anyone that hasn't played it. The world is just incredible. I can't say it enough. It might be one of my favorite apocalypses of all time. I still can't get over the Metro thing. It's such a genius concept. Go play the game yourself if you haven't. And remember, I don't know, insert some profound quote from the game.